is lying to you right now. Not in some metaphorical sense, not in some philosophical way. Literally, physically, measurably lying. Every single thing you think you're seeing, hearing, feeling at this very moment was created by your brain before the actual sensory information even reached your consciousness. You are not experiencing reality. You are experiencing your brain's best guess about what reality might be. And that guess was made 500 milliseconds ago. I'm Leonard Susskind, and what I'm about to show you will fundamentally change how you understand the nature of perception, consciousness, and reality itself. Because the uncomfortable truth is this: doesn't wait for reality to tell it what's happening. It creates the story first, then checks if it was right. And most of the time, you never even know it was wrong. This isn't speculation. This isn't theory. This is measurable, observable, repeatable neuroscience that reveals something deeply disturbing about the nature of human experience. We are not passive receivers of reality, active creators of a simulation, and we're living inside that simulation every moment of our lives. Let me start with something simple. Look around the room you're in right now. You see colors, shapes, objects. You probably think those photons of light are hitting your retina, traveling up your optic nerve, and creating the image in your visual cortex. That's what they taught you in school. That's what most people believe happens, but it's completely backwards. Here's what actually happens. Your brain is constantly generating predictions about what you should be seeing. Thousands of parallel simulations of reality based on your past experience, your current context, your expectations. When light hits your retina, it doesn't create an image from that information. It compares that information to the simulation it was already running. If they match, great. You see what your brain predicted you would see. If they don't match, your brain either updates the simulation or ignores the conflicting information entirely. You are not seeing reality. You are seeing your brain's prediction of reality with occasional corrections when the prediction was dramatically wrong. This is called predictive processing, and it's arguably the most important discovery in neuroscience of the last 50 years. Your entire conscious experience is a controlled hallucination generated by your brain's predictive models. And here's the disturbing part. Most of the time, it doesn't even wait for the sensory information to arrive before showing you what you're supposedly seeing. The visual experience you're having right now was generated by your brain roughly half a second before the light that's currently hitting your retina gets processed. You are literally living in the past, experiencing a simulation of reality that your brain created before reality actually happened. Let me prove this to you with a simple demonstration. Have you ever been driving down a familiar road, maybe going to work, maybe going home, and suddenly realized you couldn't remember the last few miles? You were awake, you were alert, you were responding to traffic, but you have no memory of actually seeing the road. What happened there? Your brain's predictive model was so accurate, so confident about what you should be seeing on that familiar route, that it never bothered to process the actual visual information. You were driving through a complete simulation generated entirely by your brain's expectations. This happens constantly. Your brain is so good at predicting reality that it often doesn't bother to check if its predictions are correct. You think you're seeing the world, but you're actually seeing your brain's model of the world updated only when absolutely necessary. But it gets stranger. It doesn't just predict what you'll see. It predicts when you'll see it. And this is where the physics gets really weird, because your brain has to solve a fundamental problem. Different types of sensory information travel to your brain at different speeds. Light travels much faster than sound. Touch sensations from your fingertips reach your brain faster than touch sensations from your toes. Visual processing happens faster than auditory processing. If your brain waited for all this information to arrive and then assembled it into a coherent experience, your consciousness would be a chaotic mess of sensory information arriving at different times. So your brain cheats. It predicts not just what you'll experience, but when you'll experience it. Then it creates a synchronized simulation where everything appears to happen at the same time. That synchronized experience, that sense of living in a coherent present moment is completely artificial. It's a carefully constructed illusion created by your brain's temporal prediction system. This explains one of the most unsettling phenomena in neuroscience, the flash lag effect. If you see a flash of light at the exact same time a moving object crosses a particular point, you'll swear the flash happened after the object passed that point. But they happen simultaneously. This prediction system anticipated where the moving object would be slightly in the future and showed you that predicted position instead of the actual position. See objects where they're going to be, not where they are. Your brain is constantly editing reality to make it appear more coherent, more predictable, more stable than it actually is. You think you live in a world of solid objects and clear boundaries, but that's just your brain's way of organizing the chaos of sensory information into something manageable. The boundaries between objects, the colors you see, the sounds you hear, they're all editorial decisions made by your predictive processing system. And here's where it gets truly unsettling. Your brain's predictive models are based on your past experiences, your cultural background, your emotional state, your expectations. Two people can look at the exact same scene and literally see different things because their brains are running different predictive models. Reality isn't objective. It's subjective, filtered through each individual brain's particular set of predictions and expectations. This isn't just about vision. Your brain predicts your emotions before you feel them. It predicts your thoughts before you think them. It predicts your reactions before you react. Free will, that sense that you're making conscious decisions in real time, is largely an illusion. Makes the decision, then creates the experience of having made the decision, then presents both to your consciousness as if they happened in that order. But they didn't. Neuroscientist Benjamin Libet demonstrated this in the 1980s with a simple experiment. He asked people to perform a voluntary movement, like flexing their wrist whenever they felt like it. He measured brain activity and asked them to report the exact moment they decided to move. What he found was that brain activity indicating the decision to move began several hundred milliseconds before people reported being aware of their intention to move. Your brain decides first, creates the conscious experience of deciding. You are not the author of your thoughts. You are not the commander of your actions. Are the recipient of a carefully constructed narrative created by unconscious processes in your brain. Your sense of being in control, of making decisions, of having free will, is a story your brain tells you after the fact to make sense of what has already been decided. This extends beyond individual perception to social reality. When you interact with another person, you're not really interacting with them. You're interacting with your brain's model of them based on your predictions about how they think, how they feel, how they're likely to behave. The same thing. You're both living in simulations of each other, occasionally updating those simulations when reality provides information that contradicts your predictions. Most human conflict stems from this fundamental disconnect. We're not disagreeing about reality. We're disagreeing about our different simulations of reality. We're arguing with models, not people. We're defending predictions, not truths. And language, the thing we use to share our thoughts and experiences, is just another predictive system. When I say a word, your brain predicts what I mean based on your past experience with that word. You don't actually hear what I said. You hear what your brain predicted I would say, modified slightly if the actual sounds differ significantly from the prediction. Communication isn't the transfer of information from one mind to another. It's the triggering of similar predictive models in different brains. This explains why miscommunication is so common, why people can have completely different interpretations of the same conversation, why meaning seems to shift depending on context and relationship and emotional state. We're not sharing reality through language. We're triggering simulations. But perhaps the most disturbing implication of predictive processing is what it means for memory. You think memory is like a recording, a faithful reproduction of past events. But it's not. Memory is reconstruction. Every time you remember something, your brain rebuilds that memory from fragments, in the gaps with predictions about what probably happened based on your current beliefs and emotional state. Your memories change every time you access them. They're not fixed records of the past. They're dynamic simulations, constantly updated to maintain consistency with your current model of reality. That childhood memory you're so certain about, that pivotal moment that shaped who you are, it's probably quite different from what actually happened. Your brain has been editing it for years, smoothing out inconsistencies, adding details that make the story more coherent, more meaningful, more aligned with your current sense of identity. You don't have access to your past. You have access to your brain's current simulation of your past, and that simulation is designed to support your brain's current simulation of your present self. This raises profound questions about personal identity. If your memories are simulations, if your perceptions are predictions, if your sense of being in control is an illusion generated after the fact, then what exactly are you? Are you the biological processes generating these simulations? Are you the simulations themselves? Are you the experience of being fooled by the simulations? There's no easy answer, because you asking the question is itself part of the simulation. Your sense of being a continuous self, of having a persistent identity over time, of being the same person who went to sleep last night and woke up this morning, that's another prediction your brain makes. You're not the same person. You're a daily reconstruction, a fresh simulation based on yesterday's simulation, which was based on the day before's simulation, stretching back to the beginning of your conscious life. But here's what I find most fascinating about all of this. Despite being built on predictions and simulations and controlled hallucinations, this system works incredibly well. Its model of reality is so accurate, so sophisticated, so finely tuned by millions of years of evolution that it allows you to navigate the world with remarkable precision. You can catch a ball thrown at your head because your brain predicts exactly where it will be in the future. You can have a conversation because your brain predicts what words mean and how other people will respond. You can function in a complex social environment because your brain predicts how others think and feel and behave. The simulation is so good that most of the time it's indistinguishable from reality. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the goal of consciousness isn't to perceive reality accurately. Maybe the goal is to create a useful simulation that helps you survive and reproduce and cooperate with others. Maybe reality is less important than functionality. This connects to some of the deepest questions in physics and philosophy. What is reality really? Is there an objective reality independent of observation? Or is reality always constructed by the observer? In quantum mechanics, we've learned that observation changes what we're observing. The act of measurement doesn't just reveal reality, it participates in creating it. Maybe consciousness works the same way. Maybe your brain doesn't discover reality, it creates it. Maybe the universe is less like a movie that you watch and more like a collaborative improvisation that you help to write. But if that's true, if reality is constructed by consciousness rather than discovered by it, then changing consciousness changes reality. The meditation practitioners who claim that sustained practice reveals the constructed nature of experience, the psychedelic researchers who find that altered states of consciousness reveal the arbitrary nature of ordinary perception, the mystics who insist that the boundaries between self and world are illusions, maybe they're onto something scientifically verifiable. Maybe the deepest truth about consciousness is that it's a creative process, not a perceptual one. Maybe you're not just observing the universe, you're participating in its creation through the very act of being conscious. And if that's true, then understanding how your brain creates reality gives you some measure of control over that reality. Not magical control, not the ability to violate the laws of physics, but the ability to recognize that your experience of reality is constructed, malleable, dependent on the predictive models your brain is running. You can't change the universe, but you can change your brain's model of the universe. And since you live inside that model, changing the model changes your reality in a very practical sense. This is why meditation works. This is why therapy works. This is why learning and growth and perspective shifts can be so transformative. They're not just changing your understanding of reality, they're changing your brain's predictive models, which changes the reality you experience. Your brain creates reality before you see it. That's not a bug in the system. That's the feature that makes consciousness possible. You live in a simulation, but it's a simulation so sophisticated, so finely crafted by evolution, so perfectly attuned to the challenges of existence, that it might as well be real. And maybe that's enough. Maybe the question isn't whether your experience is real in some ultimate sense, but whether it's useful, whether it's meaningful, whether it helps you connect with others and find purpose and navigate the genuine challenges of existence. You are not a passive observer of reality, You are an active participant in its construction. Your consciousness is not a window onto the universe. It's a creative process that generates the experience of being in the universe. And that, I think, is far more interesting than simply perceiving what's already there. The next time you look around, remember, everything you think you're seeing was created by your brain before the light reached your eyes. You're not seeing the world. You're seeing your brain's best guess about the world. And most of the time, that guess is so accurate, so seamless, so perfectly crafted that you forget it's a guess at all. That forgetting, that seamless integration of prediction and reality might be the most remarkable thing your brain does. It creates a simulation so convincing that you believe it's not a simulation. It constructs an experience so coherent that you never notice the construction. It generates a reality so stable that you forget it's being generated. Your brain is not just processing reality. It's creating it moment by moment, prediction by prediction, simulation by simulation. And you, the conscious experiencer, are both the product of that creation and the witness to it. Welcome to the strangest truth about consciousness. You don't live in reality. You live in your brain's carefully constructed model of reality. And that model is being updated and refined and regenerated every moment you're alive. The question is, now that you know this, what are you going to do with that knowledge?